Welcome. Or welcome back. Either way. Just on another walk here. Different park than I was the other day. Sitting next to this lake here just before sunset to appreciate some nice sunset light and energy. Enjoying the end of the day. It's a lake. Gorgeous lake. Running water over here, nice little waterfall. People fishing around it. All this. It's really quite a beautiful place. And yes, running without a tripod again. I don't even know if I'll be able to coordinate myself. I found this little feather. Just trying to put my hat or something. Goodness, excuse me. I had to yawn. I don't even know if I have anything to talk about, to be perfectly honest. Other than what comes to mind right now is, isn't nature beautiful? It's a relatively calm lake despite the waterfall coming in and adding water, creating ripples. It's got a relatively calm surface. It's not too windy out. Getting to see all the reflections of the trees and the structures. It used to be one of my favorite things to take pictures of the reflections. And I never really knew why until, I guess now I know why. Because it's just such a beautiful metaphor for reality. It's really what we're all doing for each other. Being gorgeous, perfect reflections for each other. Yeah, I don't know if that's really going to work. I don't know if I'll be able to save this feather like I thought I was. Trying to stick it in my shoe. Not that I need to save it, but I have been finding several different unique and interesting feathers over the times that I've been coming to record myself, and I love it every time. Yeah, we'll see whether or not that stays. But it's man, just the majesty. I just woke up from a quite unplanned nap, although I should have expected, I suppose, given... Wow. I don't know if that's going to be able to be visible. There's like the biggest swarm of gnats or something above my head, looking like they're dancing above me. It's so cool. See, I guess for me it's just about the simple things. I feel the most peaceful and the most calm, the most at home whenever I'm just sitting out in nature. I don't need to be with anybody else. That's another thing that I've cultivated, I suppose, throughout my life. Given that whether it was me or other people, and I tend to view it in the way of me being the reason for everything in my life. Regardless, I've found myself preferring very much so. I don't know if those were ducks or if those were swans that I just saw, but they were all black. 6 of them. Gorgeous. They look long neck. Longer neck than ducks. But maybe they were still ducks. Who knows? Either way. The point I was going to make before I got distracted by the ducks was I've learned to be in solitude and be absolutely at home in my own energy. And I suppose maybe that's something that I can talk about today. Not that I believe that the majority of people or anything are like this, but the majority of people that I have encountered in my experience in this life so far. 3 more. Black swans or ducks, not sure. Either way, just incredible. They've got to be ducks. There aren't that many black swans. There's a reason that there's like a movie about it. They're usually white, right? Anyway. If those were swans, that's fantastic. 9 in a row? Alright. Anyway, the people that I've experienced in my reality, for the most part, maybe that's not even an accurate categorization, but as far as I can tell, they aren't extremely comfortable with being by themselves or being in silence. Me included, to some degree. I have found myself distracting myself with voices, whatever, podcasts, people talking about things that I am interested in. Because I haven't personally found yet those people, or a great number of those people, and perhaps it's my own fault again for not bringing these things up, just assuming that people don't want to talk about the things that I want to talk about. So, this, like every other one of these videos, if you will, is more so a therapy session for me and on the behalf of me than it is for anybody else. And I want anybody that finds this video to recognize that I'm not preaching. Or if I am, it's to myself first. And these things are meant to be reflections for me to revisit and be like, oh yeah, I remember that time. I remember that problem. I remember whatever, And how it led me to these other thoughts, these other realizations about my reality. And you gotta love it. I'm sure that you can probably hear it in the background. There's some fine gentlemen across the way in a, did they call it a, is it a pagoda? I'm not sure what it's called. The camera, one of these guys over here. playing money. It's a drag. I don't even know if those are the lyrics. That's okay. People in my experience not being okay being alone, not being able to find peace when they're alone. Many that want to fill conversational space or space in general when experienced with others with conversation as opposed to silence. I'm not saying it's a problem or it's wrong or any of those things. It does seem to me to be a little bit sad that in so many ways, as I'm seeing things, life is meant to be the meditation. The purpose of life, as far as I can tell, is to become familiar with yourself, which is what the root words that make up the word meditation means. And that I see people at least appearing to run from themselves. It's all a reflection of me, after all. So it doesn't surprise me because I was there. Not saying I'm not running from myself in some ways still. But what my desire is, what my hope for humanity is, really, is that we would come back to ourselves. And remember that we're all the main character in our lives. And this experience is happening for you. Not against you, not to you, not in spite of you. The depth is nothing to be afraid of. And in fact, depth is what you are. You are so deep, just like me. The waters go so deep. And just like you can look at, and just like that, you can look at the ocean as a metaphor, I guess. That's where I was meaning to go with that. Where they say, and I don't know the percentage, I'm sure somebody will feel free to correct me, and by all means, correct me. But haven't we only explored like maybe 5%? Maybe 5% of the ocean? That's like a reflection of the level that it appears we've investigated the psyche. And our emotions. Like really, really investigated. Excuse me. Because we haven't investigated these things, we don't understand these things. Because we don't understand we misjudge. I don't want to lay this on anybody. I don't want to push this forward into reality. I know that words are very powerful, and really, if you look at the beginning of, even the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the word comes from imagination. And while I'm not saying anything against imagination, I'm just wondering if there isn't a more balanced, appropriate, and useful way to utilize our imagination. Instead of imagining the worst, for instance, based around fear, we imagine the best, based on love. I don't agree that there's a war. Spiritual or physical or whatever, or that there has to be a war. But I can see how we get there. And I think the chief reason is fear-based thinking instead of heart-based or love-based thinking, and allowing that to rule us instead of us taking accountability and charge of our own lives and ruling over that instead, and saying no, I don't want this. I don't prefer this. I don't want to see this in my reality. And I know that habits are persistent. And to some degree, you can see the human body, you can see the human animal as a creature of habit. But why do we give up our power? And just say things like, well, that's how things are. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm guilty of this. Even phrases like "it is what it is" probably aren't nearly as helpful as anything else, really. Like, for instance, "it is what I make it." It is what I say. Makes me think of the definition, or maybe not the definition, but what I've come to understand the word amen to mean, which is, and so it is. Which makes so much sense as to why that would be placed at the end of prayers, for instance, in the conventional sense of prayer, where I don't even know what you would say the conventional sense of prayer is, honestly, come to think of it. What comes to mind mostly is like prayer in the Christian religion, where or at least is the way I've interpreted people to see it, is like where they're asking for something. I suppose that brings me to my own understanding of the word prayer. I think prayer is more aptly showing gratitude for the things that you have. And really, if we're talking about something it is that you don't have, a prayer in that context would be showing gratitude in advance of having the thing, knowing that your word creates reality. And if you know that you have those things before seeing the physical evidence of them, and show thanks for those things, they will be yours. Words aside, like amen, and so it is. That's all well and good. It's more so just, I think I've gone off on a tangent, but that's fine. It's more like, oh, sorry, brother. It's more like, brothers. I think I just smushed a couple of bugs on me. Didn't even realize they were there, but I itched. And came up with, oh, that's something living. Okay. But anyway, if there's something that you want in your reality that you're not currently seeing in the physical realm, money, whatever, even something as simple as happiness or peace, or I don't know, prosperity, justice, whatever. I just listed money and prosperity as if they're not a different thing, but I mean, you could make a distinction, I'm sure. The way most people would view prosperity, I understand, would be monetarily. There's plenty of prosperity, plenty of abundance in the universe. There's enough for everybody and more. There's so much more. And I think that if you can be grateful for what you already have, the universe is so much more willing. God, if you will, source energy, the basis of reality, whatever you want to call it, be so much more willing to give you more if you just show gratitude. I'm not saying this is like a shame on you for not showing gratitude, but I think it is a hack, and we overlook it because, yes, the ego is constantly striving for more, always wants more. That's its motto, really. More. Just because the ego is a construct, it's something that's been made up. It's an idea of yourself from a particular perspective, and that idea is in its own sense and by its own definition limited by whatever it is that you make it out to be. And so if the ego and the source are connected to one another like we are in this human body, it can recognize that there's more in the universe. There's more projected around you in physical form. And if it can perceive that there's more, the ego starts to realize, man, I'm not very much at all. I'm so small. I want to feel bigger. And the way it seems to do that is by collecting more things, instead of realizing that even though there is the perception of separation from everything else, there isn't any true separation. And if the ego realized that it was all things already, perhaps we may be able to have a chance at achieving the abundance that we are all entitled to as children of God. And I know maybe that's a strong word, and maybe some people won't like that very much. You are entitled to abundance. You are infinite. There is no limit to the capacity, to your intelligence, to your money, to the love, especially the love, because that's all it is. That's all there is. In reality, at least. All the other things like the abundance and the intelligence and all this stuff, these are all just part of God. as we see God, or as we understand. Well, goodness. Not even sure if that makes sense. Maybe it makes sense to somebody. Perhaps I could expand on that thought. But who knows? No, I'm just zoned out. Not sure where I was or where I was going. But I guess the point is that you don't have to be limited. You don't have to live strictly from your ego. Your ego is not all there is. Though maybe it thinks that it is. You are not separate from anything else, though it may appear to you that you are. And anything that you want, anything you desire, anything you need, is right there for the taking. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. Taking is probably not the right word to phrase. Not the right way to phrase it. Because it's not a matter of taking. That sounds more egoic. That's like, the petty little battles that people get put into in their own minds about, oh, if this guy gets abundance, I won't be able to get it, kind of thing. No, there's enough for everybody, I guess. There's a good place to be. There's enough for everybody. And you are enough. And if you start to recognize that you are enough, because you are an aspect of the divine, of God, of Source, a piece, a fractal, a sliver, a fragment, whatever you wish to put as a name for that. The more you begin to realize that, the more will flow to you effortlessly. And it doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to grind all day. You can be at peace and still have prosperity. And may I encourage you that I love you. And that perhaps if you don't show yourself love, maybe that's a good place to start. To be able to recognize that all that you need is contained within you, and everything else is a projection, including me. In this video, in your reality, I'm just a projection of you. And I want the best for you. I want to see everyone in my reality, no matter who they are, to thrive, to be gloriously abundant, just as the Creator designed. You just have to become more familiar with yourself and recognize that you're the solution. You're the answer. And you've got this. So, until next time.